Yeah, I'm at 146 Bradstreet Road in Dayton, Ohio. We're doing a sanitary lateral inspection for the purchase of a home. And we're looking for any structural issues, root intrusion, anything that may be of concern to the buyer. I believe the exterior line may have been replaced recently from the way I understand it. And because of that, we do have an outside clean out here. Here is the clean out. And as we go straight up, you can see it's right next to the side door, the one closest to the garage. And so from this clean out though, we should be able to go both directions. So first what we're going to do is I'm going to go upstream or back in towards the house. It's pretty common. There's a little bit of water here. That camera lens is only about ½ an inch off the bottom of the pipe. Excuse the noise there. There's a street sweeper coming up the street. We'll let them pass. Alright, and so on the interior should be cast iron, which it is, and then on the exterior is now, I believe it's PVC, but it would have been originally clay. So we're going to go about as far upstream as we can in this cast iron, which should be the stack in the center of the basement. Cast iron is a normal material for this date and time frame, and cast iron is a little bit hard to judge as far as life expectancy. They say it's good for about 75 years, but you can tell it does rust, mostly from the inside out, but sometimes soil can even have an effect on that, soil like soil type. But in this case, the line looks pretty open. What we're looking for here is just to make sure that it's holding shape, there's not any big holes or anything like that in the cast iron. We can't really tell how thin or thick the walls of the cast iron are. Like I mentioned earlier, it's just something that there's really no way to know. But this line looks nice and wide open. Usually the first indication of it as it starts to go bad would be huge like channeling on the bottom of it, and it would eventually rust through. In this case, this all looks like this is in good shape. It's all kept its shape, and here we are going up the stack, so we've reached the high end. And so you can see in the bottom left hand corner that the camera is pointing straight up at a 76-degree angle. That is looking straight up the clean out. That's why you can see that little dot of light in there. That's the vent going through the roof. That's why you can see the light. And so the interior line, cast iron, looks good. Looks about normal for this age and material type. It does look rough, but all cast iron does. So as we pull back, we're trying to take another good look at everything. And one thing I do want to mention about cast iron is that it is more likely to get what we call soft clogs, or clogs that are caused by like excessive amounts of toilet paper or wet wipes. Just due to how rough the pipe material is. It's nothing that's going to happen under normal use, but wet wipes is something that I always recommend that people steer clear of. just due to the fact they don't break down. So if a wet wipe catches on any of the rough cast iron, it doesn't break down like toilet paper. Toilet paper will disintegrate and won't cause an issue unless you're putting, you know, half a roll down there at once. But the wet wipes do not break down. As much as it says flushable, just because it goes down through the toilet doesn't mean it's good for your system. And so I always recommend steering clear of those wet wipes. If you're going to use them, just throw them in the trash. Don't throw them down the toilet. So far, this line looks really good. The cast iron is in pretty good shape for its age. I don't see any holes or any major damage at all. Just a lot of rust, which is normal. Okay, now we're back out here into the clean out where we're going to pull up. And we're going to turn. You can see we're vertical now. If you look in the bottom left-hand corner, the camera's facing straight down. It's a little representation of the camera plus an angle. And then I'm going to have to roll the camera here and get it to go the other way. And there we go. And so now we are going downstream. And I believe the line was replaced with PVC, which would be a good thing. But it should probably switch back to clay after the repair. And that may be, I don't see the road dug up, so I would think if the main is out in the street, then it will switch to clay or maybe concrete. It isn't as common, but it is about this. It is another possibility for this age of house. So far, the line looks good. You can tell as we push, I'm just pushing some water up in front of that camera lens. It's only, it should be 6-inch diameter pipe, and that camera lens is only about half an inch off the bottom of the pipe. So usually you can see a lot better on the pullback because you're not plowing stuff up in front of the camera lens as we push. So we're going to continue to push out. You can see the level there. And on the way back we'll be able to see better. This is pretty normal. It's just kind of flat. You have a little bit of root intrusion here at about 50 feet, right at the connection change from the right past the connection change in the first connection of clay, which is probably why they replaced the line to begin with. There's probably a large amount of root intrusion. It's most common with clay. It's the most common issue, and there's a very large tree right here in the front. Okay, and here we are out at the main. And as you can hear, the street sweeper is coming back down this way also, so we'll give that a second. Okay, so as you can tell, we're all the way out at the main. I didn't see any issues of any concern. There is that little bit of root intrusion, which is most likely what that is where they stopped the repair would be the end of the property through there, which was at about 50 feet. You can see as we pull back that this stays open. And And now, so there is a little bit of root intrusion, which we still are in the drip edge of the tree. The normal rule of thumb is about 10 feet beyond the drip edge of the tree, or the basically 10 feet beyond how far out the branches go. And in this case, this line would be well within that, and even this spot, but I'm assuming that they went out to the sidewalk, and that anything past the sidewalk is the municipality's responsibility. That doesn't mean that there's not some responsibility for the roots. You would have to maintain them. This could probably be taken care of with some chemical. Root X is kind of the Kleenex to tissue idea. It's kind of the brand name of the industry. And Root X, you could put this in, and before you go to bed, you flush it down the line, and it should eat these roots back. But just so you know that they are there, and they're just barely into the flow line. So not anything of any major concern right now, but they will continue to grow as long as that tree is here, and in some cases up to like 5 years or more after the tree is gone, if not removed fully. But at any rate, this is a very small amount of roots, and would be able to be taken care of with a chemical treatment. But it also shows that it's also one seam, one connection past where they had stopped the replacement of the line. So the line looked really good in both directions. You just have a little bit of roots at 50 feet downstream of the outside clean out. That could be treated with some chemicals. Usually they recommend about once a year with some Root X. You just put it down the toilet before you go to bed, or in a clean out or something. Maybe run the water a little bit to help carry it down, and then let it sit, and don't run any water overnight, so that it can make its way, makes its way to the roots, but then catches on the root and sits on it instead of it being flushed, fully out. But we are back in the clean out again, and vertical. So let's see, we've exited the clean out. So to summarize again, the line looked really good upstream. You have cast iron in the house, and the cast iron looked pretty good for its age. It's all holding shape, and the connections are good, and no structural issues. And then downstream, the line had been replaced out to about the sidewalk, and but at that point, one section past that, there is a small minor amount of root intrusion. It's about 50 feet on the video anyway, which means it's probably about 37 to 38 feet from the bottom of the clean out. So but they, just like I said, minor amount of root intrusion could be taken care of with a little bit of a chemical treatment. And in the future, as long as the tree's there, you will have to try to treat that to make sure that the roots, don't grow large enough to start causing backups. But the rest of the line looked wonderful structurally, and also no root intrusion. I mean, it all looked great except for that 50-foot mark on the video. So I'm going to recommend that chemical treatment, and just to keep up on that maybe yearly or semi-annually, and everything else looked great. So that'll end the inspection at 146 Bradstreet Road in Dayton, Ohio.